13 and 14, Night Lake Center.
Okay, we're back.
Right. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Tuesday, November the 19th, public meeting of the Board of Garrett County Commissioners. I want to welcome everybody in the audience and everybody watching online. I apologize for being a couple of minutes late, but we'll catch up as we go through the agenda. If everyone would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Commissioner Titchener will lead us in the invocation. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd all bow with me for a word of prayer, please. Precious and loving Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come to you today thanking you for this day. Lord, we thank you for all that you do for us each and every day. Lord, we would just ask that everything that's said and done here today is pleasing to you, and Lord, we'll continue to give you all the glory. We do all this in your precious holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Mr. Knoll, any additions, corrections, or changes to the public meeting agenda?
There are none.
Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Agenda approved by mutual consent. Everybody got a copy of the minutes in advance of the meeting. Are there any questions or concerns to the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. The minutes are approved by mutual consent. The first item on the agenda is a couple of resolutions. We'll take them one at a time. The first one is Resolution 2024-11-19, USDA Utilities Infrastructure Equipment Project to earmark funding for the purchase of a boom truck. This will be for the Department of Public Works Utilities Division for a total cost of $700,000, of which USDA grant will pay $525,000. Any questions on that? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2024-11-19?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second? Second. Question or motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-16, and this is to sell county property to the town of Grantsville, 176 Springs Road, Grantsville, Maryland, which is the old Maranatha Church. We will be selling that to the town for the lump sum of $1. Any questions on that? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 2024-16?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is Garrett County Department of Community Development Planning, GIS Division, road name resolution RN 24-2. And Chad, you want to walk us through that one quick?
Yeah, so we got three of them. Closet Made Drive, we're just going to remove that from the road roster. That was the drive that went to the former Closet Made building. That's been purchased by somebody else, so we're just going to have those addresses all as Corporate Drive. Second one is Roland Hill. That's the road that leads to the new Dollar General off Glendale Road. So that's a new road name. Lionheart name. This is a new road off of Bumblebee Road in between Heart for Animals and Lions Club. There was one other one advertised, Walnut Lane, but that one we pulled. There's some issues with that. That's going to need to remain a road name, so we're working with those owners to come up with something new for that.
All right. Questions for Chad? If not, do we have a motion to approve RN 24-2 as recommended by the GIS division?
So moved.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, okay.
That's what I,
Okay,
it's just,
yeah,
so that's why we're gonna go back and forth.
okay. All right, just an announcement here, before we close the public meeting and open the public hearing on a 10-year solid waste management plan. Next public meeting will be Monday, December the 2nd, 4 o'clock here. What we're gonna do now is, provided we get a motion, we will close the public meeting and open a public hearing, and the public hearing will be on the 10-year solid waste management plan. Who's gonna present? Okay. Mr. Knoll will present that, and then if there are any questions on that particular piece, that will take place during the public hearing. If there aren't any with that, we'll close the public hearing and go back into the public meeting. So, with that, do I have a motion to close the public meeting and open the hearing on the 10-year solid waste management plan?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, we are now in a public hearing on the 10-year solid waste management plan. Mr. Knoll, what do you got?
Yes, sir, so this is the update of the 10-year plan. The overall goal of the development of the Garrett County Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Plan continues to be to provide a system of resource recovery and solid waste disposal, which will handle the county's current and anticipated future volumes of solid waste as economically as possible while ensuring that public health, safety, and environmental qualities are protected. This plan summarizes the actions, projects, and plans the county will follow to meet or exceed our recycling requirements, promote waste diversion programs, and continue to promote our strong partnership with municipalities. The plan includes the mandated infrastructure of a landfill gas collection and control system, as well as the design and planning for the closure of the current landfill cell and the opening of new cells within the next 8 years. The plan is available to view on the county website. It's been reviewed and approved by MDE.
Before we take any public questions or comment on that, are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? Are there any questions or comments on the 10-year solid waste management plan by the audience? All right. Hearing none, I will then take a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the public meeting.
So moved.
All right, we are now back in the public meeting, and the next thing we will do is adopt the 10-year solid waste management plan, which is resolution 2024-17. Any questions on that? If not, do we have a motion to approve the waste management plan?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And we've talked about through the budget process what some of those components are, especially in dealing with the landfill. If you're interested in seeing more detail, it is online to look at. With that, that brings an end to the agenda. We'll take public comment or questions on that, then we'll adjourn. And then the next item of business is our legislative request. Want to thank and welcome Senator McKay and Delegate Heinball for joining us today, as they always do, before the legislative session kicks off, to have some discussion about some of our requests. I know the Liquor Control Board has some items that they are looking at as well. So before we go into that, are there any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, Len.
Yeah, good evening. A few days back, I co-wrote a letter to Senator McKay and Delegate Heinbach, trying to open some discussion of how Annapolis can help the county better address needs, workforce housing, child care, transportation. I'm aware that this meeting is a discussion between you and Delegate Heinbach and Senator McKay. Is there going to be time set aside for public discussion with our Annapolis delegation before the session starts?
I'll defer. Yes, please.
So, two different things. There'll be a public meeting on December the 3rd at Garrett Community College. It's being hosted by the Chamber. So you're more than welcome to contact them and come there. That's at 8 o'clock. And if you would like to set up a meeting with Delegate Heinball and ourselves privately, we'll be glad to do that with you, sir. You know, I think everybody in the county has a right to be heard, including the business community. The chamber has a right to lobby the delegation, but that meeting's at 8 o'clock in the morning, which precludes a lot of working folks from being there. I appreciate the fact that it's open, and I don't think they're charging this year. But more and more, it just seems like despite the hard work of so many people in this county, whether they're in state or county government, whether they're in nonprofits, certainly community action, it just seems more and more like we're living in two different counties, where some of us who were fortunate to have good jobs or good pensions, decent health care, a home, on the one side, and then on the other side, folks working 2 and 3 jobs, not being able to find or afford a house and all that. I'm not saying anything that anybody hasn't talked about here. But certainly this building is the public square. This is where citizens should come and be able to air what we think, and ask questions of our delegation. So while I appreciate what the chamber is doing, let's be clear that, to be polite, there isn't always synchronicity between what the major businesses want and what the average people in the county want. This is the public square here. So I would hope that you rethink just coming here and speaking to the commissioners, and then just going to the chamber and not having a wider discussion for the whole county right here. So, and I appreciate your coming and answering questions. Thanks. So, like I said, if you would like to have a meeting, Delegate Heinball and I would be glad to have a meeting with you, sir.
Thank you, man. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have questions about the Swallow Falls Bridge over the Yacht. Is that appropriate to ask now or later in the meeting?
You can ask them right now. I didn't even recognize you with your mask on. I'm sorry.
I have a copy for you.
All right. And welcome back. We haven't seen you in a
I
while.
know, it's been a while. We also emailed copies to the rest of you. I didn't have the wherewithal to make copies for everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to comment and ask questions in this public forum. I wanted to ask about the Swallow Falls Bridge, what the status is of the 60% design. It's still not available. Why is it stalled? Has it been resolved by the county, by DNR, or the appellate court case. Second, would the county support an amendment to institutionalize the Yaak River Advisory Board within DNR, which is something I would like to bring to both of you gentlemen as well. The county's decision to withdraw support of the board removes public access to records, among other problems created by lack of county support. Senator McKay has said that he would support only if the county and DNR support such an amendment. However, as we know, DNR does not comment on legislation until it's been presented, so we're kind of in a catch-22. We need a local legislator to present the legislation, but if you're not willing to, unless DNR will move, then we're in a do loop that we can't get out of. Finally, would you release records of the original design work and any engineering studies for the 2010 bridge? I know Mr. Stein's statement at I think the last meeting of possible abutment support for 2 lanes. Was this study part of what was submitted to GPI for review? And if you will not release this, would you provide reasons why you will not provide this to the public? Or would I need to submit a PIA request? And I can give you a copy.
Okay, good.
But I did email it to all of you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Mr. Knoll, do you want to comment? Mr. Knoll's been our point person on the bridge with all interested parties. Can you bring us up to speed on the status of the 60% design?
Certainly be happy to. So the 60% design, DNR actually has that. They've had that. It's being reviewed by DNR. And so we continue our process, but we have no, I really don't know when that may be released.
Are they communicating why they're holding that since
They're-
January?
All they're doing is they're working on it. That's what we get. They're working on it.
They have not given us any specifics on why the lack of timeliness exists.
So the second one is about the bridge supports, and yes, that was included in the original inspection of the bridge, and actually those supports are not sufficient to support a new bridge. So we'd have to put additional abutments behind that. That was included as one of the options that was presented, and it was turned down as a viable option. So that was looked at. And as far as the design, be happy to share that. I'll have to see what that consists of and where those at. It was a temporary bridge, so I can certainly get that information and we can send it to you.
Thank you. And the amendment, would you support amendment to institutionalize the Yacht Advisory Board and get us out of this loop of not being able to get anywhere with it?
No, that'll be a conversation. I just received that email last week, and I have not had an opportunity to speak with our delegation or my fellow commissioners or DNR about the request. So I'm not going to say yes or no because I don't know the answer. And I'm speaking personally, not as a board of commissioners. I'm just talking about me personally. I would have to see exactly what that looks like before I can comment on that. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in.
I totally agree.
Thank you, Ann, and good to see you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Lynn.
Back on the housing funding, Senator McKay, just for my clarity, do you see the meeting that we could set up, do you see that just between you and Lynn, or could it be a forum like this where?
Well, it all depends on how many people you think you might have. You can certainly rent a place.
Okay.
What I have found being a member of the delegation in years past, we've had to personally have to rent stuff, and we have had very little people come out. So what we've decided to do is meet with people, and if you have 10 or 15 people, we'll be glad to meet with each and every one. So, yes.
Well, Senator Edwards and Delegate Weisel had it at the college. They don't charge for that, do they?
Yes and no. So you are correct, they don't charge for it, but there is an expense. And when the public doesn't come out, the college is the one that has to pay that expense. So instead of advertising, an actual meeting, which we do have through the chamber that people can come to, but if that's not convenient, what better way than to have a one-on-1 or 1-on-15 that we can make sure that those topics are addressed.
They've always been pretty well attended, I just want to see what's going on for an hour or more. I'm not sure.
Yes, sir.
I mean, suppose we can provide space, a church or a venue. There are churches in Garrett County that would love to approach this.
Understood. And what all I ask is that the request be made and we will make it available. We are definitely open to that. And it can be with as many people and as many. But I would like the request to be from somebody, and we will find that venue to make sure that everybody is heard. Yes, sir.
Are you saying there's sufficient time if we were to try to organize
Absolutely.
something like this?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyone else? All right, Senator, thank you for answering those questions.
Absolutely, sir.
If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and then we'll get into our legislative request session. So do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Public meeting is adjourned. Everyone's welcome to stay if you want to for the conversation with the delegation on our request. I think the first thing we'll do is, Debbie, I'll turn it over to you if you want to make the request on behalf of the Liquor Control Board.
Thank you, Commissioners Kevin, Knoll, Delegate Heimball, Senator McKay. My name is Debbie Austin. I'm the administrator for the Garrett County Board of License Commissioners, otherwise known as the Liquor Control Board, and our statute falls under the alcoholic beverages article. And as time goes on, we find during code revision that there's still some housekeeping matters that need to be addressed to be consistent with the verbiage for various licenses and things. So on our legislative request, we have Class B licenses are typically a restaurant license, with the exception of it allows recreation, hotel, motel, and entertainment. So we've discovered that some of our larger facilities that have a Class B restaurant have mixed use. My best example is the Wisp Resort, also has a hotel on the property. There's a couple restaurants in the lake that have hotels and vacation rentals, so we want to make them clearly defined spaces. For example, at the Wisp, we want the Wisp to use their catering option in areas that are mixed use to the hotel. So that's the creation, which really is an expansion of our Class B license. So when I establish a Garrett County beer and wine commercial resort and beer, wine, and liquor commercial resort, it's to address those properties with mixed use. And the other definition of a deluxe commercial resort, so if you have more than one liquor license and they're not on contiguous property, it's defined as a deluxe. So that is just the expansion of our Class B general license. And as we're going down the road to clearly define Class B, we'd like subcategories specific for hotel, banquet hall, golf, recreation, and entertainment facilities. That way, historically you refer to it as a Class B restaurant, but there's different types of properties that fall under that same class.
May I ask, would wedding venues fall under banquet hall, or is that?
Yes, definitely could. Chad's here, so it could fall under zoning, if how zoning defines it. So zoning defines some properties as commercial resorts, so we wanted to be consistent with our language. The Wisp clearly is a commercial resort property based on the acreage of the property. So yeah, it's just a matter really of housekeeping. Even though we're considering establishing them new, we're just expanding on existing ones. corrective language that we're finding with the code revision and just the additional changes to licenses over the year, it's not consistent on the language of advertisement of a hearing and notification. So I'd like to take all of our special class C event type licenses, per diem and multi-event, and just make the language consistent. In years past, in before code revision, they fell under the same section, and now they're separate sections. So one might refer to, you have to qualify as a special class C in a multi-event, and then the multi-day doesn't mention it, and same with the advertisement. So the Board of License Commissioners, we had a meeting last week, and we discussed these items, and just by going through them, they're just not consistent, and I'd prefer they be consistent on how you apply and how you give notice. In addition, we have a Class A winery license, and in the past it was only used by Deep Creek Cellars, and they no longer use it, but it's still on our statute, and we have a potential new winery coming to Garrett County, and depending on if they apply for their Class 3 manufacturing license or their Class 4, they need an add-on to allow for on-premise tastings and sales by the glass. So we have the Class A winery to amend to add the tasting option with limited off-premise sales for an additional fee. And that will be if this winery goes with the Class 3 manufacturing. So if they go with the Class 4 manufacturer license from the Maryland Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, they won't need our license. But we wanted to be prepared in the event they do. They have their special exception hearing next week, so and their applications are in with the federal trade, firearm tobacco trade, and the state. So we're just wanting to be prepared because we might fall afterwards, and I'd rather present it to you today than come to you in 3 weeks and ask for it. So
This will all be under one comprehensive bill, right?
that's usually how we did it. So today I talked with Tom Arcris from the State Alcohol, Tobacco, Cannabis Commission legal person, and
But usually, you personally work with a bill writer.
Correct.
But could you, at least for me, it would help to have a written narrative description of
Sure.
what you talked about
Okay.
to go with this?
yes.
Usually the liquor bills are not controversial, and they're kind of rubber stamped unless it changes state laws or state.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and I spoke with Tom this afternoon, and he was saying how we always lump our bills into one, and I said in the past that was just probably a matter of time for when you guys are in session.
Well, I think it's very important to note that PLS has put a dollar amount of what it costs to present a bill, and it's about $4,000. So to lump these all together, making sure that there's nothing statewide implications that would have to be pulled out, you're looking at, if we have done singly, 8 times 4,000, and so it's a fiscal nightmare for that. So thank you for bringing it all together and trying to save some money.
My personal goal for the next session would be there not be any liquor control.
I thought we almost made it.
I thought we did a lot last year. I thought that was it.
I agree. Kevin could tell you I start my notebook the day after this meeting, probably for next session. So I agree. I think it's an easy housekeeping session and nothing controversial. So
It looks upon that, we'll have some questions.
okay.
So,
It doesn't cost anything, so it'll probably be approved.
that's a true statement.
Well, you're only, what, $2 billion in the hole?
Thank you.
2.1?
2.7.
Oh, now we're 2.7?
So,
Yeah.
Since what day is it?
All right. Anything else, Debbie?
That's all I have to present.
You guys
Thank you.
have any other questions for Debbie?
no, and I just really appreciate the in the weeds breakdown when it's time for us to present.
Okay, will do.
And our offices will be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
We have a couple of requests we'll talk about, and then open the floor for you guys for any comments or any other things. And just for the public's understanding, which I know most of you probably, just because we go through this exercise here, if something comes up doesn't mean we can't call our delegation at any point in time and make a request as time goes on. So we're not limited to this one time face-to-face, and that's it.
Well, with the exception that there is a cutoff.
There is, yes. Do they have copies of this?
Yes.
Okay, so,
You want me to do it?
yeah, if you want to, go
You
ahead.
want to do it? I don't care.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Mr. Knoll wants to,
Well, I don't know, I have more of the detail.
He's-
It's easier.
he wants to get on the board here, he wants to get in the game.
All right, so we have two requests. The first one, last year we had a request to bring our purchasing requirements in line with the state requirements for a $50,000 in order to do a required bidding. We have two requests under purchasing, basically housekeeping. One is to give us the ability for products and services that are as needed. We have the ability to purchase those over time without advertising. So an example would be anti-skid. We don't know how much we're going to use. It's awful hard to bid that, and we do spread that around all the bidders. So it would eliminate that need to bid. And the second one is to allow us to purchase one or more vehicles without advertising the bid if the amount does not exceed $100,000. With a prime example we just had, we had some trucks delivered. They were wrong. It took us 1.5 years to get them here. We had to return them. We were able to find a truck on a dealer's lot for $70,000, which is actually cheaper than what we were paying on a state contract. But in today's world, we just can't go buy that. So that would give us that ability to do that just for vehicles under $100,000. This is modeled after the Washington County law that was passed last year. So we're not asking for anything special or new in that one. The second one is
Just hold
I'm
on,
sorry.
please. Any questions about that? I think it's pretty straightforward, but.
Yeah, it is, and actually when that bill was passed in the Washington County delegation has a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce as well, and then any other people that have requested meetings, they meet with them, similar to what we're gonna do here at Garrett County. But a lot of that was flushed out to make sure that it was good governance.
Yes.
With meeting part of the transparency, so kudos, it passed there, so we should be able to
Yeah.
get it passed here.
Would you have to go to the state contract first? I mean, would this have to be less than what you could get it for?
Well, we would still want to do our due diligence and get bids, see if there's other, for example, a truck is going to get 3 bids for a truck. Oftentimes that's difficult, but it gives us that flexibility just in case. We always want to try to get the best price, whether we go from state contract or do written bids or phone bids.
Hard to believe a truck is, a pickup is 70,000. My first house I bought was 55,000. I'm old.
Wait till we buy an ambulance for 800,000. So,
Yes, sir.
Is there any consideration being given to this bidding situation or buying situation that would try to give the local businesses the opportunity to make sure they're included? I mean, a lot of these people aren't anywhere near as big as
right, yep.
somebody in Baltimore or Washington. So there's no way they could possibly meet these bids sometimes.
Yeah, and we are looking at our bidding process for that very reason. How can we streamline this to encourage local businesses? Some of the requirements are state requirements that we can't get around. But for example, I'll use an example. We try to get somebody that wants to plow some small parking lots for us. Well, our insurance requirements are so high that the average person, the guy that's out there that's a landscaper, wants to plow snow in the winter, he can't because of the requirements. So how can we protect the county and do our fiduciary responsibilities by also giving them the opportunity to bid? So that's something we're aware of and we were trying to work on.
Well, so you suggested that you're reviewing that.
Yes.
So until that review is completed, we're not gonna go any further with.
Well, no, we always reach out. We always reach out to local contractors. If we know somebody, for example, when we try to get somebody to plow snow, we actually reached out to them and said, "Can you bid on this? Are you interested in this?" So we do that. We do an outreach.
But as you point out, you have to balance that with your fiduciary responsibility to use the tax.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, go ahead.
So our second one is a modification to the state tax law. This is not requesting an increase in any taxes. This has to do with basically what I would call housekeeping and adding to the tax law specifically for Garrett County, including in the hotel definition, a transient vacation rental unit and a short-term rental platform. And our request for this is if it's in the tax code and we have it defined, that will give us the ability to force the short-term rental platforms, the Airbnbs, the VBROs, to remit our accommodation tax. Right now, we don't have a method to require them to do it. And in our discussions, it seems that if this goes into effect, we can use that to require them to remit those taxes. So
This is just a resubmission of the bill that we sent you last year. Just to clarify, the TV or any rental has to pay an accommodations tax. Because they're a third party, nothing in the law says that the third party has to collect it. What's happened, and maybe you can use this in your deliberations at the state, is the people who, I buy a house to lake and I want to make it a TVRU and I'm renting it through Airbnb. In my mind, without thoroughly reading contracts and all that stuff, buyer beware, I'm thinking that Airbnb is collecting that tax and remitting it on my behalf. I don't know that they're not until I go to sell that house and the county says you owe $25,000 in back accommodations tax because you weren't collecting and remitting them. So that this would eliminate, I think, a lot of confusion by people who are working in this industry that think, because our locals, Raleigh and TaylorMade and Off Lake and all the ones here, they do that. Without being forced to. Airbnb has said they are willing to do this and actually sent us some language that helped draft the bill. Their hesitation is their biggest competitor is Booking.com and they will not. And so Airbnb's argument is if we include the tax right away, our price is 8% higher than Booking's and they're not required to do it, and so people will all go through Booking. Makes perfect sense. This would level the playing field for everybody without increasing any tax on anybody, just collecting what's due to us, and also protecting the homeowners that think that by going through Booking and Airbnb that tax is being paid. So that's what this is all about, and appreciate you guys submitting that last year. I think some of our friends downstate may not realize exactly what the issue is.
Well, Commissioners, as much as I would love that legislation passes in the Maryland General Assembly on its merit, it is not necessarily to be true. And so, unfortunately, to circumstances that we could not control, there was some of my colleagues in the Senate who saw this as a additional tax on Montgomery County people vacationing in either Western Maryland or a similar bill of vacationing in Ocean City, and they did not see it as a leveling the playing field for an up-and-coming entity such as Bookings or Airbnb. I'm very proud to say that I think we have gotten through that, and we've been able to demonstrate. So I think we're going to be able to get that through the Senate. I do believe that the good delegate had it going through the House, so it was not. It did go through the House, so it was a Senate problem, and I believe we've addressed that, and so I think it shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts.
And if we do find it as a problem, we'll reach out to you and have you come and testify, and maybe meet with a couple of my fellow senators that might need an opportunity to hear some more good news about it.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, one last thing.
Yes, sir. So, we are requesting a legislative bond, in the amount of $150,000. This bond, is for a biomass demonstration project. The county's been exploring, developing, and implementing a biomass project in response to Maryland's energy performance standards that recently went into effect. And we've worked with members from the U.S. Forest Service Wood Energy Technical Assistance Team to gain an understanding of the facilities and needs and layout. The county's identified a project that may present an acceptable financial performance if grants can be leveraged. The benefits will be keeping energy dollars in the local economy, supporting good forest management, reduction in GHI emissions, avoidance of biogenic waste being landfilled, and reduction in peak electric grid demands. In order to pursue this grant, we are required to have a pre-engineering or a PER study to determine the feasibility and the estimated cost of the project. We estimate that a PER to be about $300,000 to $350,000. Our request is for a legislative bond in the amount of $150,000 towards the PER for this project.
As you well know, commissioners, Frostburg State University is trying to be an energy leader for all forms of energy, including solar, wind, and biomass. And so it's going to help us to have FSU to be on our side. I'm pushing for that. So I will pump the brakes a little bit, but we did mention a $2.7 billion deficit in 2026 and a $6 billion over the next 5 years. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that, but the amount of money that we're going to get in our bond, legislative bond initiatives, as you guys know that it's called now, may be a little bit on the weaker side than what we have normally done. District 1 historically has done very, very well when it comes to bond initiatives, but historically we have not had this type of a deficit in over 2 decades. So it's going to be really interesting, and I always throw a little joke into it that we punch above our weight, and I weigh pretty well, so that means we do pretty good. So we'll have to see, but I think we'll have some discussions, but looks forward to putting that in.
Hey Kevin, have you all checked with the Maryland Energy Administration?
Yes, we work closely with them.
There's
Yes.
no money there?
Not for the PER, there's not. Once we have a PER, there's grant money available, so.
And again, just for the public's information, biomass is a Tier 1 green energy in Maryland, so it does meet the standards for all of our energy goals.
Yeah, the legislature, I think it was 3 years ago, had added that into it and this kind of stuff. I do expect that the environment, which is very important to all of us, that will be a discussion as we go forward, especially with the election, the way it went, and how Maryland will be able to meet its own imposed regulations for getting energy.
That was a big topic of discussion at Mako.
So it's gonna be good. I had an opportunity, if I may.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I had an opportunity to see the windmills that were being installed on Dan's Mountain in Allegheny County, and actually got a first bird's eye view of that and how that works. So it'll be interesting to be part of that conversation going forward.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? We'll turn it over to Mayor Record.
I have a
Kids
comment
Mill.
about the wood biomass.
Yes.
I heard grumblings. I don't know that it's gonna happen, but I heard grumblings that they were gonna try to remove that from the green energy source this year. We need to try to make that not happen.
100%.
It needs to stay in there.
Yeah, we're 100%, really, I am, 100% in agreement with you, Mayor. And, I do have heard that as well, that they're gonna try to remove that, but I don't believe that leadership, meaning the speaker or, the president of the Senate is on board for that. Just for the simple understanding is that our self-imposed, goals that Maryland is trying to do, we need all forms of energy, to meet those. Or the PGM, which is the management of the grid for all of the electricity, they have said that the wind and the solar, projects that have been approved and have been added to it, are not keeping up with the demands. And they, who are not to be a political body whatsoever, has said that we could, if we don't figure something out, we could see 60% increase in electric bills. And that's across the board. So it doesn't matter if you're in Baltimore City or in Kitzmiller. Sorry. But thank you, Mayor.
All right, Senator, Delegate, what other things do you have?
Well, I think, Senator McKay's already kind of touched on this in terms of the budget situation we're facing for the upcoming year. As he mentioned, there's a lot of numbers floating around. We had the Spending Affordability Committee met virtually last week. That included Ways and Means appropriations on the House side and budget and tax on the Senate side. And as Mike mentioned, the number that's currently being tossed around for FY26 is $2.7 billion. What some people aren't aware of is that we're looking at a deficit for the current budget year of $1.3 billion. The representative from BLS that gave the presentation said that the deficit in the current year, FY25, could be solved by taking $1 billion out of the rainy day fund. There's $2.5 billion in the rainy day fund. There's some other things they could do. They can, their projects, they have capital projects, they have what are called pay-go, where basically it's cash paid for up front. They can take that cash back and sell bonds to pay for those projects, which will help. But it's, and again, as Senator McKay said, it gets progressively worse. It's over $2 billion in 26, over $2 billion in 27, 5.88 by 2030. And the bad thing is that the growth isn't there in Maryland. We rank 49th in terms of job growth as a percentage, 49th out of the 50 states. Over this 5-year period up through 2030, our spending's projected to increase at a rate of 6%. Revenues are projected to increase at a rate of 3%. So as Mike said, they're saying it's the worst budget gap we've had in probably 20 years. Blueprint, which is one of the drivers of this, is funded, I think I'm correct in this, it's funded through FY27 at the state level.
Yeah,
reserves.
that's correct. And actually in 2028, we have exhausted all of the money that we've been putting back to pay for the blueprint.
Yeah, so the budget, I think right now the projection is 26 and 27, it's a deficit of $2.7 billion, but then the bottom drops out in 28, it'll be something significantly worse than that. So there was a lot of concern expressed in this meeting about the election and what it means. Maryland has 160,000 federal employees, and they get about $25 billion a year in wages. There's talk about reducing the number of federal employees. There's talk about relocating some of the federal agencies from the DC area to other parts of the country. There was concern that the FBI headquarters that was slated to go to Prince George's County may not go there. There was concern about funding for the Key Bridge. There's just, also there's about $42 billion in contract spending for the federal government that comes into Maryland. So there's just a lot of, angst, I guess, about what the future holds in terms of the financial situation. And I think as Senator McKay said, I think we did pretty well last year on the local bond initiatives. We got 200,000 for the fairgrounds, 100,000, for Recovery House, I think 50,000 for Drain House. We did real well. It's gonna be, I've talked to some of the people on appropriations, the chair of the capital subcommittee. It's gonna be very, very tough this year to get much of anything. So, the 150, certainly we can ask for it. It may be tough, to get. I think that's pretty much the notes that I had from the call, and as Mike said, and your dad would say, well, we've looked at all these before, they always tell us we're gonna have big deficits, and it never happens. Well, I think this may be the time when it actually happens, because for one thing, the job growth and revenue growth just isn't there.
Do you guys, and not to jump the shark on you, Mike, but my fear is, and I haven't heard anything official to this point yet, but with the deficits we're facing and the statements made by the administration and several key legislators that they're not going to back off Blueprint in any way except possibly delay implementation at a point, is there any fear that they may try to shove more of the burden and cost back to the counties?
I think that that's not an option, just from the simple fact that the leading county that has pushed back on what has already been is Prince George's County and Howard County. And so if it was, say, all the counties to the west and all the counties to the right, to the east, now you're gonna have to, that may have been there. Also, former Senate President Mike Miller is not there anymore. And there is no doubt about it, Mike Miller was very key, and he tried to push as much towards the counties as possible. If you remember the piggyback tax, and he would argue, well, unless you are 3% or higher, you're not paying your fair share. President Ferguson has not been that way. I am, and I'll just go into my part if I may, the bonds. For you younger people that jumped the shark came from Happy Days, the television show, and so I feel like I'm talking to the Fonz. No, just kidding. I am very, very pleased that Governor Moore has said, look, everything is on the table, including is there some things of the blueprint we can cut out. And so I look forward to working with him to do that. Now look, I am on judicial proceedings. I've spent 8 years on appropriations, so I understand the budget. Matter of fact, the minority caucus comes to me to ask questions about it. We are blessed in Garrett County by having Delegate Heimball on appropriations. There's a simple reason, not simple reason, but there is a simple understanding is that those who are on the budget committees do get a first crack at getting money. So Garrett County, I believe, will be taken care of, maybe not to the volume of the amount of money that has been asked, but Garrett County will not be forgotten because he is on board and does a great job in that position. That being said, we all have to pull up our bootstraps, we all have to work together, and so I am looking forward to working with Governor Moore as we try to figure out the best way. And it is, a tax increase. That's not off the table. And we did talk about that. If there is a tax increase, it's going to have to be a really, really high bar, is what Ferguson was saying, that for him to do that. So, look, there's a lot of people that are hurting out there. There are some people, very small people, who are a benefit that not have to be paycheck to paycheck. But I'm concerned about the single mom who's having to do with child care and grocery prices, possible electric, those type of things. And so when I was chair of the Economic Stability Work Group in the House, we were looking at those policies that would prevent people in the middle class from falling back down. And we were always very proud that Maryland shouldn't be counting how many people we have on all the social programs, but how many people we've been able to lift out of that so that they're not struggling from paycheck to paycheck. So, like I said, the budget is going to be taking the majority of it and that type of stuff. Just to give you a little bit of update and that kind of stuff, you know that there was a bill about lake levels that were put in. The committee chairs asked for the environment to chair a work group. That work group has been meeting. It is my understanding is that they plan to have their last meeting sometime in the first week of December. This is the one that they're going to make sure that some of the stakeholders are be able to address and have a say before that. So we do not know what that report is going to be. MPE is going to be the one writing that report from all of the stakeholders putting into that meeting. There is no plan at our point. There's no legislation or anything like that. We're doing exactly what the chairs in both the Senate and the House asked us to do. And we'll have to see what that report is. And when that time comes, we'll share that with you and the public.
Right.
But the last thing I would say on the budget is that I've only been there 2 sessions. I don't have the experience that Senator McKay does. But there's no way the legislature is going to cut $2.7 billion. It ain't going to happen. If you want to get a kind of a preview of what's going to happen, look at last year's BRFA, the Budget Reconciliation Finance Act. The House put together a package of fee and tax increases that would have raised about $1.3 billion in new revenue. The Senate and the governor didn't want to implement any of it. They had a joint committee and ended up accepting, was it $300 million?
1.2 million increases in the end of the 320.
So, I would suspect that a lot of that's gonna come up again this year when they start looking at how to address the shortfall. I would anticipate that we're gonna see a lot of things come back that were already proposed in the last session that the governor and the Senate didn't want to accept. So that'll give you an idea of, from what I've read, one of the things they're looking at is a corporate tax increase and a tax on wealthy people. I don't know how that'll turn out or whatever. There's some concern that already, Maryland is driving a lot of wealthy people out of the state already. You're still here, so
You said wealthy. So I'm excluded from
You.
So,
yeah.
So anyway, it's going to be a tough year, and it's going to be very interesting. Our goal is to protect the county as much as we can, whether it's a blueprint or anything else. But I think there is, again, I'm relatively new, but I think there is a possibility that some of this is going to be pushed to the counties. I'm not saying a lot, but the counties may be asked to pay more, whatever form that's in.
Well, I think two things. Number one, we need to look at what are the pass-throughs that come to the county for all the different services that are there. And so we need to really protect that. And that's going to be a number one, just so we can hold the line. Second of all, just to let you guys know, something, I don't know if it's going to be legislative, because I think I may have found an answer to it. So unfortunately, with Hurricane Helene, North Carolina in the mountains had devastation beyond devastation that they did not anticipate. I had a constituent come to me and say, hey, we're in the mountains of Western Maryland, where are we? And so we went ahead and posed a question to Garrett, Allegheny, and Washington County for their emergency management plans, and thank you for giving your all's 2 cents on that. And we also contacted the Army Corps. Had an opportunity last week to go to Morgantown and sit with the Army Corps. There was people from Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland. I think I got us all. And we were talking about emergency plans. And what I found from the Army Corps is they actually, while the Army Corps normally comes in after devastation and that kind of stuff, they actually have some funding opportunities for counties that want to enhance their emergency plans. And so it looks like we're going to be holding a meeting. It'll be a virtual meeting because there's no sense in the people coming from Pittsburgh and all that good stuff. But that'll be a Zoom meeting that I hope to have your emergency management team on there to hear what the Corps has to do about some of the planning and some of the dollars. And so we just need to make sure that, look, Brookfield does a wonderful job with the dam. I'm sure that it's not going to be a problem. But who's to say the next hurricane comes and it's more than that they can handle? The last thing I want is devastation in the town of Friendsville. That's the last thing that we want. And so we really need to be able to dust those off. I know that we periodically, I think in Comar, we have to do it by a certain amount of years and that kind of stuff. But while it's on everybody's radar, and we saw the devastation, I think it's important that we pull together. And what may end up happening is, out of that exercise, what we find out from the Army Corps is there something from the state of Maryland that we need to then make this a statewide push. We know about the flooding that we had in Ellicott City. That was supposed to be a 500-year, and then 4 years later, another 100 one comes through. And so it is on the radar for people who have been flooded. It's those that haven't. And both the Army Corps in Allegheny County, especially in the city of Cumberland, put its flood control up, and we're looking really, really favorable to what they're going to have as a river park. But I tend to believe that we need to hear from the Army Corps. Those floodgates controls were put in for a reason, and I think they can use that exercise as well. So it'll be all Washington, Garrett, and Allegheny County. So thank you for what involvement you've had right now, and look forward to your involvement in the future.
You guys got anything else for us? Just say thank you guys for your partnership and always being able to get a hold of easily, and your help with all the things we have going on. Much appreciated. And we look forward to working with you this session.
Absolutely. Thank all three of you. You guys have definitely been a great partner. And look, we haven't always agreed, but we work it out. And that's what the people expect us to do, is work it out. So I appreciate that, each and every one of you guys.
You too, Kevin. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you guys very much.